Well, if there can be no arrangement, then we are at an impasse.
I'm afraid so. I can't compete with you physically, and you're no match for my brains.
You're that smart.
Let me put it this way. Have you ever heard of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates?
Yes?
Morons.
Really?
Welcome to Morons Mince Movies. I am your host, Moron Sam Munoz, and I'm here with my fellow moron, Uplester Peñalosa II, and Akam. We've missed his life of Arturo. I couldn't think of it.
Yeah, no, you ruined that one. But
yeah, I totally ruined it. But
he's
today,
in Act 3. He's in Act 1.
yeah, he's in Act 1. This is Act 3 of
Act 3.
the Morons Mince Movies of Life of Chuck. Which,
Charles.
Yeah, Life of Charles Krantz.
Charles Krantz.
Krantz, was that his last name? I can't remember
Krantz.
anymore.
Yeah, it was.
I just
Way
saw
to
the
go,
movie,
man.
but I can't remember already.
I also saw it. Whoa. I also saw it just a few minutes ago. So
Excellent.
Krantz.
Excellent. Let's get right into it because I think there's a lot to talk about. Let's general thoughts. What did you think about the movie? Senora?
I very much enjoyed it. It was a roller coaster of emotions for me, man. I'm going to be
Really?
honest
Ooh.
with you. It went from like anxiety to sentimental to personal to back to anxiety. I mean, it was just back and forth for me, but I enjoyed it. Overall, it's a passing grade for me.
Really? Oh, so we already know the future.
There's
Should we do this Monsters movies backwards? Start with Act 3.
Oh, that
Start
would
with the
be
grades.
wild. We should have figured that one out before we started.
Since we don't talk about our recording
God
whatsoever.
Damn it, we're morons.
Yes.
Yeah, let's. Do you want to try that? I don't know if it's gonna work.
I don't think it's gonna work. I need to talk about it first before I grade it.
Let's go back with starting. How general? What are your general thoughts?
I liked it. Generally, I thought it was a good movie. Not as great as I thought it was going to be. I was hoping for something a bit more. Even though it was
Chucky?
subjectively speaking, I did have an emotional reaction to it, but not the kind of emotional reaction that I really expected from it.
Nutsack kick to the heart.
Yes, that's kind of what I was thinking I was going to feel. But I thought it was a very well-made movie.
It was.
I think the structure and narrative of it and how it was a 3-act film, but it was told backwards. So you start off with Act 3.
And then you get Act 2, and then you get Act 1 in the end.
Yeah,
So
very memento-ish.
Yeah, sort of, but not in the same way.
Not in the same way,
Yeah,
but
it's
the
just
same.
like those 3 stages of Chuck's life, I guess.
In a way. Yeah. All right. So how do you want to approach this, Sam? Because I don't even know where to start with.
Let's start off just with a quick sort of synopsis. This is Life of Chuck, directed by Mike Flanagan.
Flanagan.
Starring a number of actors, even though Tom Hiddleston is in the poster, he doesn't show up.
He
as
doesn't.
much.
He's in one act.
I would say, he's kind of a supporting role, even though he's kind
I
of.
would go as far as to say that. Who would you consider the main actor, though?
It's hard because this
That's what
movie
she
is
said.
told in 3 different time
Perspectives?
periods.
Acts.
I
Time
guess
periods.
3 different acts, and there's sort of 3
Studios.
different time periods, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, so you have Chuck. It's kind of hard to get.
It's
It's kind of hard to
so
talk about
hard.
it without getting into it.
Yeah.
So let's just get into it.
Let's
Fuck
just
it.
get into it.
So
So my initial thoughts from
Yes.
Act 1. Let's do this.
or Act 3.
Act 3. Let's see, I'm already confusing it. Let's start with Act 3.
Yes.
Act 3 by far was my favorite.
Oh,
of all the
really?
3 acts.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
It was the most anxiety inducing,
Uh-huh.
but it was my favorite just because
There's a lot of mystery.
the
in Act
mystery.
3. Yeah.
The unknown of what the fuck is going on. When are they going to address
Yes.
with more detail what's going on? Because it sort of starts off vague. You're in a classroom and they're reading Walt Whitman.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful poem, by the way. They sort of focus on this one line, which kind of comes into play over and over again, which is, I contain multitudes.
Yes.
And that stands out. That stands out right away. And then you see an ambulance drive by, and the students are busting out their mobile personal phones. And California has experienced a fucking magnitude of an earthquake.
Basically
a
sunk
9.5.
into the ocean. Yeah.
California, most of California.
Is gone. The big one hits. They pull out their phones and they're reading, and then right away it flashes forward by like 8 months. By like 8 months, they're doing parent conferences.
Sort of, not really. I think. I think. You're
wrong.
No.
Before you even finish,
No,
you're wrong.
because they don't flash forward. What's happening is their phones are not working, the internet's down, and
Right.
people are saying like, "Oh, it's gone down again." And this isn't the first time that's gone down, and then it doesn't really flash. I think it's like later that day.
No, they say
where he's having
the parent conferences.
where he's having the parent conference. There's
they
no.
say it's 8 months later.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do, man.
No, they
Guaranteed,
don't.
Guaranteed.
No,
they
I think
do.
you're wrong about that.
I'm not wrong.
We have to
Samuel.
rewatch it. I don't think they.
Samuel, I just watched this a few fucking hours ago, and I
And so did I.
guarantee you, it's been 8 months. Because
Are you thinking
even
about the act
the
2
teacher,
where he says like 9 months before?
No. The teacher at one point is telling one of the parents, "Your kid was doing good. He had A's and B's,
Yeah.
and now it's
And
C's
now
and
it's-
D's."
Yes.
And then all they're talking about is the internet going down.
Yeah,
and how
which
it's
just
been
happened.
down. Right.
Which
it
just
wasn't.
happened.
I kid. Go back and look for it. Fucking look it up on the phone. I shit you not,
Are
Samuel.
you sure?
I'm positive. I am willing.
Either
to,
way,
to put my career at stake.
Okay.
It's been months when they have the parent conferences.
I don't
And
think so.
Yes, it has. And each parent.
I think
is
they're talking about-
If it was instant,
They're talking about the months that have passed where things have been going on.
no.
But I don't think within this moment of who this character is. By the way, the character is a teacher who who we come to find played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Oh my god, we really fucked that
Also
up.
known as Marty Anderson.
Yes.
Much easier to pronounce.
yes.
Maybe change your name to that. No, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
yeah.
You have a beautiful name that I cannot pronounce. But you know him more from Doctor Strange.
12 Years a Slave.
12 Years a Slave. Great actor. He plays this role magnificently, and he plays a teacher who this huge thing happens in California, and they're nowhere near it.
No.
But the effects are being felt there.
All over the world, things
All
are
over the
going
world.
on.
The internet is on and off. The few pages that do exist are scrambled. Pornhub is gone.
Yes, this was
More-
talked about excessively, and
Not
I
excessively.
and I
Just
can
in-
understand it. I
Yeah.
understand why you would devote an entire scene
know.
to Pornhub, because I think that's exactly
That would be the
you know,
reaction. That would be the reaction.
Despite, and I don't want to go into spoil what's really going on here yet,
Yeah.
but despite what you find out what's happening here, I felt this whole end of world depiction was very realistic, even though it's not really a spoiler. Well, this is a spoiler review. It's not really happening,
But
right?
see, it's happening to them, though.
It's happening
that's
to
what
them.
I took away. It's
Yes.
happening to these individuals in this time.
in this world,
In
which
this world
which is
that they
really
live
the
in.
mind of
They are
the-
losing the internet, and you get a nice glimpse at what that would look like, at least in a more rural area where maybe it's not the big city hub. It's
Yeah.
a small town. There's a high school. There's a junior high school. They still have to keep it going. They still have to have class. They still have to give grades. They still have to talk to parents about attendance. But the parents are looking at you like, why are we doing all of this? Like, legit shit's
Yeah.
fucking going crazy everywhere.
Why even
California
care
is
about
in
the
the
grades?
ocean?
Why even
There's
care about
volcanoes.
school,
Yeah, why are we
work?
doing this? And you get this feeling of like, God damn it, is that what it would look like? Is that what we're doing right now?
I feel like no, that's not what we're doing.
Kind of, sort of. I think history books in the future are going to be like, And
this is nowhere near.
Meanwhile, they were doing podcasts while there were
While the world
riots.
was ending, yes.
45 minutes away from them, there were riots.
45
and
minutes
build-
and more
an
like
hour.
more like 15 minutes
Yeah.
ago.
No,
like in
that's true.
Santa Ana. I mean,
Just
it's
on your way here, you encountered two or
no,
three
I
protests.
didn't.
So
I went around.
You went around it. You took the 20-mile detour. But yeah, so there's that opening scene, which is some
The world
crazy
is
shit
ending.
happened. This teacher's just trying to live on, deal
Yeah.
with it. They show
he's divorced. He has an ex-wife.
Karen Gillian.
Huh?
Karen Gillian. Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy. She plays a nurse. And you see
Oh,
her
that's
perspective.
Nebula?
That's Nebula.
I
Are you
would
kidding
not.
me?
She's completely in makeup in the Marvel
Yeah,
movies.
but you
How
would
would
know
I
her
ever?
from Doctor Who, of course.
I would not know her from Doctor
Matt
Who.
Smith. Anyway, she plays a nurse.
Yes.
She plays
who's his
the ex-wife.
his ex-wife. Yes.
And she also is dealing with the repercussions of this event. The hospitals are
Empty.
Are
Well,
empty.
people are killing
losing
themselves.
hope.
Yeah.
People are killing themselves. they bring up this very interesting question, which is, what do you think is more, the rate of people that are now getting married because of all the shit that's going on,
Or
the
divorce.
rate of people that are divorcing because of all this shit that's going on? And she eventually lands on marriage because of divorce being such a difficult process and paperwork, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, these are the questions that come up when you're looking at these types of events, which
Yeah.
is the end of the world.
Yes.
And shit just keeps getting weirder.
Well, the thing that gets weird is that these characters start seeing these advertisements of, life of Chuck. It was a
Thank you,
great
Chuck.
39
Yeah.
years. Thanks, Chuck. A
Yeah,
great
thank you,
39
Chuck.
years. And the movie at first does not explain anything about what's going on here.
it doesn't.
And who's putting these
Ads
ads
up.
on TV that seem to
Yeah.
come out of nowhere. Not only that, billboards start to show up,
Billboards,
graffiti
yes.
on the walls.
Graffiti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all these things, and I think as a viewer, I was very intrigued by the mystery of it.
Yes.
But I do think, and this is where I think maybe the movie kind of, what's the word? Let go of its load too quickly.
Yes. Or maybe
because I think it gives it away. So I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go ahead and spoil what's going on with this first act, right? I mean, and then we'll go into the rest of it.
I would have been able to keep going without the spoiler. But
Okay,
keep
no,
going.
okay.
No.
Well, then should I don't know how to move on
This is
from
how I
Act
wanna
3
reveal
into
it.
Act 2.
So the way Act 3 eventually progresses is shit starts going south slowly. But first, the internet goes completely out. So there's still some, and I like this because it comes back in Act 2. But in Act 3, shit slowly starts blacking out.
Yes.
You lose
You
the
lose
internet.
power.
You lose the internet,
Yeah.
which I feel is a metaphor that you'll understand later. But no new information is made available now because
Yeah.
the internet is done.
Yes.
And then the lights go out.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, the stars start going out. And then these pictures on all the windows start showing up that says, "Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck."
39 great." That's where I was like, what? How are they possibly going
Yes.
to explain this shit?
Yes.
They're showing up on all the windows of all the houses. Thank you, Chuck. And then every once in a while, it would kind of glitch, and it would show Chuck, instead of in the nice suit that you're seeing on all of the billboards, he's wearing like this pajama striped
Well, he's wearing the hospital
gown.
gown.
Yeah. But it's only shown to you at first as a quick glitch, and that makes you wonder, what the fuck is this? And then Act 3 ends with essentially the end of the universe.
Yes. Yes.
Our main character for Act 3, Marty Anderson, decides to walk
And
to his
Nebula.
ex-wife's house,
Uh-huh.
Nebula.
Yes.
And they're relaxing in the backyard. They're watching the stars, just casually talking about how they're afraid and what's going on. And then fucking suddenly the North Star disappears. That
Yes.
shit gave me anxiety. When they're watching the night sky and the stars are just disappearing one by one, that's when I was like, if I saw this shit in real time, I would probably just start crying or shit myself or both.
Well, we kind of skipped over an important part because
Which is?
the reason why the teacher Marty Anderson decides to go meet his ex-wife is everything's kind of going to shit.
South, yeah.
And he realizes, well, I better be with the person that I love. And so he has to walk there because, there's sinkholes happening.
Opening up, yeah.
So, and on his way there, he meets a guy who's like an undertaker, I believe.
Yes. The
Who gives
Undertaker.
him the whole thing about there's math, and I don't think it's the humans that is causing this problem. It's not
yeah.
it's not our
It's not our-
what
day
I
is
what
longer
I've,
now.
Yeah, what I've come to realize is like the Earth
Numbers.
is slowing down or something
Yeah.
like that. On top of that, there's also we skipped over a good amount. There's a great
I know.
conversation
Yep.
between the teacher, with Marty Anderson, and his ex-wife, where he
Yes.
talks about
the
the
timeline.
calendar.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I love that they brought that up. I'm
Yes.
sorry, you guys, if you're still watching this, there's this beautiful episode of Carl Sagan where he talks about if you look at the entirety of time and existence
The
as one
universe.
calendar year,
Yes.
the Big Bang happening at fucking
Midnight, January 1st.
January 1st. and to now, and he talks about, the Milky Way galaxy formed in May.
Yes.
And human life didn't really happen until fucking
December
30th.
December 31st, I believe he says.
The 31st at 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And like fucking 10 minutes later is when they got agriculture. That shit has always fucking interested me. So the fact that he references it while talking to her on the phone, like she reaches out to him, shit's going south. She needs comfort. She calls her ex-husband. They have this beautiful conversation where he explains this analogy to her.
Yes.
And then he ends up, and he looks at this doorway. He looks up at this doorway that's locked.
Yes.
And you're like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yes.
And all these answers.
There's a lot of things that happen in the first act, which is
Third
act
act.
3.
Yeah. Stupid. The third act.
that are going to be called back in the first and
Yeah.
second act. Well, mostly the first act.
Yeah. Mostly the first act.
And yes, and the calendar thing I wanted to bring back and talk about it because I do think I really love that whole metaphor, and I love what it kind of says about human life and how insignificant we are, how small we are compared
Small
to
and new
the universe and the time the universe has existed and so on. And yet here we are. It's saying
Worrying about
all
problems,
these
bills.
insignificant problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so we get to this end of the world, the end of Act 3, where the world is ending. And yes, you have these cutaways to Chuck. You finally get to see Chuck in some sort of real form besides the ads.
Besides the suit.
And he's dying on a hospital bed.
Yes.
And I don't know. Do you want me to talk about?
Go for it.
So this is where I kind of realize this might not be a real thing that's happening.
Right.
It's in his head.
Right.
Like it's in his. That's the only thing that
Chuck's
really
head.
could explain why there's these ads just popping out of nowhere and everything like that.
Right.
So I was from that scene. I was like, was that all in his head? I wasn't sure yet.
In Chuck's head.
Yeah, it was all in Chuck's head. I wasn't sure yet, but I had a pretty good idea of that's what it was.
Yeah.
And you kind of forget about it because then Act 2 happens.
Yes.
And it's more of a happy sort of, and it's a real change of pace.
It really is.
Yeah, like because
it's jolting.
Act 3 is very much it's the end of the world. There's a lot of like
Anxiety,
sort
and
of
stress.
sadness at like the fact that human life is so meaningless and insignificant. There's also this kind of emotional connection with the fact that in these moments where all these other things about human life kind of go away. What you're no longer worried about bills, no longer worried about work. What is the thing that you care about the most? And it's like your loved ones. That's kind of like what I got from the fact that he makes the trek to go see his ex-wife because that's the thing that's what matters to him.
Sorry to cut you up. What? There's a speech that, and I have to praise him, Matt Lillard. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Most of you know him as Shaggy from the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. He plays his neighbor.
Yes, Gus. He plays Gus. Yes.
He plays his neighbor. And there's a scene where Marty is, he's walking out on his way to work and he sees his neighbor and he calls him over. And the neighbor comes over. And at first I was annoyed with him because he's just so happy and like nonchalant about like, yeah, there's a sinkhole over in this part and there's traffic. So I had to walk back fucking 13 miles. Isn't that crazy? And you're like, this guy just seems unfazed about all the shit that's going on. And then they have an exchange. And at the end of their quick little interaction,
he's teary-eyed.
That's when he tears up and he starts talking about like everything going on and what it was worth and why. And it really hits that spot where it's like a heartfelt speech from him. And you're like, yeah.
Well, he's accepting. I mean, he talks about how the 5 stages of
grief.
death, of grief. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think the reason why he's so kind of nonchalant is because he was in the denial stage.
He was.
And then when he's having that conversation, he even says it himself, like, we're going to start, we just got to accept it that we're...
I think that's where we all are right now, man. I think we're all just like accepted this as like,
No,
I do. I've accepted it.
We're not gonna die. Don't worry. We'll be fine.
But yeah, no, he did a great job. I just wanted to throw him out.
Yeah,
there.
his there was a lot of small roles that are just kind of thrown.
I'm telling you,
There's no main actor in
Act
this.
3. No,
there's a main
there wasn't.
character, but that main character
was
is
the
played by
build-up.
multiple actors.
Yeah, there was a build-up.
Yeah. So in Act 2, let's get to Act 2
Let's
because
get to
Act
Act
2 is really just tells a sort of a quick story. You have this drummer who's setting up on the streets. She's plays for money. She's a Juilliard dropout, I believe.
Yep.
You have this girl who just got broken up by her boyfriend.
text.
Yeah, by text, the modern way, as they say.
of
By the way, the voiceover is
yeah,
God.
what's his name? God damn
this
it,
is what
Parks
this is
and
what we
Rec
need.
guy.
Arturo and Noel.
Arturo, where
Things
are you?
have gone to
Speak to
shit
me.
ever since they haven't been able to do these
no,
things.
man, we've had to just Nick Offerman.
Thank you.
Brief relight on our phone. Thank you, replacement Arturo.
Yes.
You are awesome. Yes, Nick Offerman does the voiceover,
And
the narrating.
he's great.
I like him. I really like
If
him.
there's an award for best voiceover, I think he should take it.
Give it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he explains like all the how she got broken up by the modern way, which I thought was hilarious.
Text. Yeah.
And then you see Chuck, and this is 9 months before his death.
Yes.
Right? He's just walking down the street. He seems to be going
Nice
through some
suit.
sort of existential crisis.
He's at a convention.
Yeah, he's
for
at a convention
banks.
for account because he's an accountant and
for
whatnot.
bankers. Yeah.
And he's the girl. She's playing the drums and everything, and he's walking by, and you hear this voiceover, and kind of going into the thoughts of the girl, like this guy is just gonna walk by.
Yep.
He's not even gonna give me any money or
Nope.
anything like that.
He's in a business too. He inspires her. So when she's setting up her drum set, the voiceover or her herself talk about how sometimes she's just doing
Just
the basics,
going to warm up, yeah.
waiting for the inspiration to hit.
And he
when
was
she
the
sees,
inspiration.
when she sees Chuck walking towards her, this business guy, that's the inspiration. That's the first time that she starts using the cowbell, which she hadn't touched prior. She starts hitting the cowbell as he's walking by. And that's when you hear her inner monologue about how this business guy is not going to stop. He's just going to keep walking. Maybe once he's done walking, I'll change up the beat.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't stop walking. He doesn't keep walking. He stops. Puts the
Drops
briefcase
his
down.
briefcase.
And he gets his fucking groove on.
Yeah, it was cool.
This guy's got some moves on him, man.
So basically a dance sequence that lasts about maybe 5
At
minutes
least
or
5
more.
minutes, man. At
Yeah,
least.
and it's the cool thing about this dance sequence, and I really liked it.
I liked
It's
it.
all drums.
It played, yeah.
There's no other music besides the drums.
No.
So he starts dancing. He's busting out the moves. He's going crazy.
Yeah.
Then the girl who just got broken up by
She walks by.
When she's standing there because the crowd starts forming and watching this guy dance his ass off. And she starts dancing, and he goes to her and is like, come and dance with me, little sister, whatever
Little
he said.
sister, yeah.
Yeah. And you don't know how significant all these things are going to be until you
Right?
get to Act 1.
Right?
Yeah. I think this is a good
I like that.
rewatchable movie. I'm
Yeah,
starting
it is
to
a
like
good
it.
I'm liking it. As we're talking about it,
Yeah.
I was like, that was a pretty cool touch. I like
all
that.
the moves that he does, you end up finding out in Act 1. We're all
the
taught.
significance.
Yeah, the significance of it.
But in Act 2, you don't know that yet.
Yes.
All you're seeing
Is
is
this
this
dance-
business guy who's on a conference tour and he's away from his family. It talks about how he's loyally faithful and he has a son in junior high school and he's just going through the motions and he's on his way home and he hears the drummer and he starts dancing. So you're like, where the fuck is this going? And then she joins, and that dance number is fucking awesome, man.
Very good.
It doesn't get old.
It was a good dance number. It was a good musical moment,
Yeah.
I'd say.
I really enjoyed it, and I think if you're a musician, if you're a dancer, if you're a romantic, I think you'll really enjoy this scene. But it ends.
It ends, and
As
and,
most things do.
Yeah, and you get this sort of voiceover again, where you talking about what's going on in Chuck's mind because he's getting these headaches.
Yes.
Right.
At one point he has to
And you don't know at this moment what's going on with him. But we do know that he's going to die.
Yeah, the voiceover.
We saw it
very
already,
clearly says,
and he's going to
And the
die.
voiceover
That's not a
says,
secret.
Yeah, he doesn't know this yet, but
So it's clearly something to do with like maybe brain cancer or whatever it might be.
You know, it's something.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's a headaches.
Yeah, and so he's kind of having these existential moment of like this, like he doesn't know why he stopped and did the dance.
Right.
Like he just
Right.
can't
They
can't
ask
figure.
him.
Yeah, they
The
ask
drummer
him.
asks
Why
him,
did you do that?
Why did you stop? And the voiceover, again, Nick Offerman, is like, he kind of knew, but this is the answer he gave, which is, you know,
He
this.
just doesn't know. Well, it ends up saying that he doesn't know.
Yeah.
And but he says something about like, and I can't remember the exact phrasing of this, because he talks about how he was an accountant and how maybe God built the world to maybe like help something around make us suffer, something like that. I can't remember exactly the right phrasing, but then he talks about the dancing.
Yeah,
and
that
he
happens
says
in Act 1.
no,
But
I thought in Act 2 he's talking
in Act
about
2,
that.
I think there's a reference where he talks about what
This is towards the end of Act 2, right? 'Cause-
yeah, because his
And
parents,
he says at the end of Act 2 that the whole dancing is why he
Is
thinks
why
it was
God
God
created
created,
her,
this in the whole the
Yes,
whole
yes,
thing in the
yes.
first place.
yeah,
It's for those kinds of moments.
We're butchering
Yes,
the lines.
we are
But
extremely.
essentially, the what goes through Chuck's head is, at first, why would God create a world with so much pain and suffering? And then he remembers, right after having that thought, God created this world for those specific moments where you decide to stop and just fucking put down your briefcase and dance. And I felt like that was fucking beautiful.
I feel like we need to cut into you.
absolutely.
You really like to dance.
You like to dance?
Ah.
The art of the dance. Yeah, no, that
It goes
act,
bang, bang, bang.
act 2, and I will say I did like that in the background you start seeing these characters that you start recognizing from Act 3.
Yes.
You're like, wait a minute. There's a girl in roller skates. I remember her from
Yeah.
Act 3. What's
That's
going
right,
on
that's
here?
right.
And then you're like, there's a guy at the coffee table drinking a coffee. I remember him from Act 3. What
Yes.
is this connected somehow? So it makes you start, as a viewer, it makes you start wondering, what the fuck is the connection?
Well,
What's
like
going
I
on
said,
here?
at this point, I was
you
already
know
thinking,
it.
like,
Yeah.
well, I started thinking these are people that have been
He's brought
in
in.
his experience and his, people that he's known or whatever.
Yeah.
And now, like, they are in his head somehow. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't
He
like
brought them up again.
it wasn't like really.
No, yeah, most people can make that connection.
Yeah,
which is-
it wasn't
yeah.
really complete picture yet until Act 1 comes. But then you get to
Yeah.
Act 1. And this is where Act 1 is the longest act, I think.
It is the longest.
Yeah.
I felt like it could have probably been a little bit shorter.
No, I mean, I think it did. I think it did what it needed to do. There was a
did.
lot that I needed to explain,
a lot,
and which
yeah.
is the first thing it tells us is that poor Chuck, he lost his parents when he was very young.
That part got me pretty hard, man.
Yes.
The anxiety kicked in at that.
Yeah.
This is where the roller coaster.
Oh, okay.
Started with the anxiety of the world ending, and then it kind of took a nice calm turn with them dancing, and then it fucking kicked back up with
Yeah,
parents
yeah.
dying.
Yeah, well, you get a lot here with so the parents die, so his grandparents take care of him. One is played by Mark Hamill.
Yes.
And he is great
Good old
in,
Mark.
in
I
he's
love
great
him.
in this role.
Yeah.
He is a good character actor,
He's
man.
fucking great.
Like he
man.
has he knows how to do a voice.
His range is I aim to have.
I
that
honestly did not recognize him at first.
range. At first, right?
I knew it was him.
Yeah.
That's Mark Hamill for sure because hasn't been another person that even resembles him.
Right.
But yeah, and then his acting is so good that you just forget that it's him.
Yeah.
And so his grandma is the one who teaches Chuck all the dance moves. So you get that right away as
What-
to where the dancing came from.
Not
And it
right
came-
away.
it came from grandma.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is the way Act 1 starts, which is he lost his parents, and for the longest time that house was just sad.
That's true. Yeah.
That part I think got to me the most because as someone who has lost a parent, it kind of takes you back to those 2 or 3 years after the accident where it's just there's nothing really to be happy about. There's no joy. It's just you're going through the motions. You're having the dinner, you're taking the shower, you're going to bed. And that shit hit home because that's what he explains as what it was like for the first few years. His grandparents were sad. his parents were expecting the daughter, Alyssa.
That's
Sounds
right.
like Rain. That shit broke my heart.
Yep, that's right.
And that just hit the grandparents harder. So for the first few years, Chuck talks about how his growing up was just sad. It was my grandparents were sad. They wouldn't eat. They wouldn't really tell him anything about what was going on. And then suddenly his grandma starts cooking again. And I think that's where the Act 1 takes a nice turn because it's positive. She's kind of getting back to her groove. You start seeing the roots of Chuck's dancing abilities. And you saw it earlier in Act 2 as he's dancing in front of people. You see
Oh,
quick
you do a little
glimpses.
glimpse. Yeah, that's right.
You
that's
see
right.
quick glimpses of a woman and she's doing this move and
Yes.
she's banging the pots.
Yes,
And you're
yes.
like, what was that? Now it makes sense. Act
Yes.
1, it's because as a kid, he would look at his grandmother cooking, and as she was cooking, she would turn on the radio and she would dance. And then you get this montage of
Yeah.
her showing Chuck
All the
how to
different dance moves.
So you start realizing, and the dance moves that he's practicing with his grandmother are the exact same
one.
dance moves that he's doing on stage in front of people, not on stage, but on the sidewalk.
On the streets.
And you're like,
in Act
oh,
2.
this is where that came from. Very cool. And so you get that experience, and then it kind of starts leading into where his dance love came from. Which
Yeah, because when he goes to school, he decides to join a club,
Yeah.
the Twirlers and Tweakers or whatever it was called.
yeah, no, he joined that. That's a different movie.
It was the Twirlers and Tweakers,
You're
wasn't
thinking
it?
of Train Spotting.
Oh,
Yeah, Train
okay.
Spotting. He joins the Tweakers Club. This one is like Twisters.
Apparently an overrated
Twisters.
movie,
Yeah,
according to you.
it
But
is. Oh, nice
but-
callback. For those of you who haven't seen that episode.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's like Twisters and Dancers or
Twisters
some
and
shit like
Tweakers.
that. Yeah, Tweakers.
Twirlers and Twisters.
They smoke meth
Twisters
and
and
then they
twirlers.
dance.
Yes.
it's a junior high school club. You tweak and then you dance. It was all the rage back in the 1980s.
the teacher, she seemed like she was a tweaker.
She did. She did. I don't know where I recognized her from, but she did seem like a tweaker. But yeah, no.
He takes a class where his dancing gets further cultivated. His love for
Yes.
dancing gets further cultivated.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
before we get to that happened. The grandma ends up dying. By the way, we forgot it. We skipped over that.
We also skipped over what's happening up in the what do you
Oh
call
yeah,
it, the
we did.
room?
So there's also
There's a secret
a lot
room.
lot of things happen. There's a secret.
There's a lot in Act 1.
I forget what it's called. It's like a little roof. So they live in a Victorian house made in like the late
Collier.
1800s. Collier?
I don't know. I just
I
made
have
that up.
a culinary? A coolio. Was it a coolio?
It was a coolio.
It was a coolio.
It was a coolio.
So in this
The-
coolio,
Gangster's Paradise.
so they have this coolio locked off. They have it locked
With a
up
lock.
with a
With a
lock,
cool lock.
which calls back to Act 3,
So actually,
where
when the teacher Marty
yes,
is on the phone with, and he
looking
sees-
at that
yeah.
door and everything. And so apparently Chuck is not allowed to go up there. They make up some lie that the floors are weak down there and he could fall through. Ends up finding we end up finding out later, but through Mark Hamill's drunken stupor. I forget
Yeah.
what is the grandfather's name. Look that up. Look, what is it?
Zany,
Zany, Zed,
Zeno,
Zedo, Zacophagus.
Z-
God, we're terrible.
Zigo.
This is why we need
I
Arturo.
know,
No.
stupid Arturo, where are you?
God damn it. Anyways,
Albie. Well, his name is Albie, but they call him something else.
yeah, they call him Zephyr or
Luke.
something like that.
No, I clicked on the wrong link. Sorry,
But anyways,
it's not Luke. Luke Skywalker.
Grandpa is a drunkard, and he's drinking one night a lot of whiskey. He ends
No.
up telling Chuck what is going on in this
actually up
coolio.
Yeah. he says there's Force ghosts up there. There's a guy who claims to be Obi-Wan. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So
But in real time,
apparently,
in
if
real
you
life.
go up there, well, he's seen the deaths of these different people that have happened. He talks
Right,
about this
he
kid named
talks
Peter something or whatever, and another kid,
Yeah.
and he's basically seen their deaths, and he's telling Chuck. And it's the horrible thing about it is not so much that he got to see what's going to happen, but it's the waiting. The wait
Oh,
for
man,
that event to
shit-
happen.
That resonated with me.
Yeah, and
the
apparently the grandfather knew that his wife was going to die because he saw
Yeah.
it in this room and he did not want.
Well, did he
Chuck to go.
see his wife? Because
I believe he did. I believe they talk about that he saw it.
they talk about when
That he knew it was
when-
coming.
When young Chuck opened the door, and the grandpa was like, "What did you do?" And he went up there and
He sees his own death
sees
there.
his own.
Yeah, because he
but
grabbed
there's
his
no
arm.
ins-
Remember,
yeah,
he grabs
his arm
he goes like
after
this.
seeing. Yeah,
And
But
that's
there was no
after the
incident.
grandma had died already. That happens
Right.
after the
But
grandma had died.
prior to the grandma dying, there was no incident where the grandpa went up there again to see inside of the room.
I don't remember, but I could have sworn that there was a voiceover again
I
about
think
how
I heard that too. Yeah,
that he knew it was
He
coming,
saw his
and
wife's
he was
death,
yeah. That's also why he
Maybe.
had everything so set up at the end. If you remember,
yeah, the
Yeah,
funeral
like,
arrangements.
yeah.
and
Uh,
They never really went into the magic of that place, did they? Other than saying
just-
it's
it's just
originally
magical.
Victorian a bill. Yeah, okay.
it's a. I mean,
I can fly with that.
it's a Coolio. They're magical.
It's a Coolio. The Coolios are magical, right? I mean, you come from a gangster's paradise. You're gonna
Yes.
have some magic in you.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So
s-
Act 1 again, it's long because it contains
A lot of stuff. This
A
whole
lot.
story of Chuck and his
the build-up of
growing
Chuck.
up and
yeah,
growing
yeah,
up. and
Yeah, his parents died. He was left with his grandparents. Through
Grandma
his
teaches him
grandmother, he
the
learns
dancing.
to dance, and then his
Gets that love.
grandmother dies.
He
and
joins a class.
Joins a dance gang.
With
class.
tweakers and twirlers.
Well, I saw it as a gang. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's a gang where they learn to dance.
Yes.
And he thrives. And one night while doing homework with Grandpa's all like, "Motherfucker, you can't pay a bill
Yeah.
as a dancing major. You know, you gotta do numbers. Numbers tells the truth.
They don't lie.
They don't lie. What are you gonna do with dancing? You know, you
And they
can't do
also
anything.
they can be an art. He says,
and they
it
can be an art, and you have art.
talks
within
about
you.
how the
Yeah.
math is in everything in the
Which
universe.
I
you know,
liked. I liked
Yeah.
because he
He-
also touches on the whole universe and
yeah, and you
space
know
things.
the most emotional part for me was that scene when he's talking about math. And he's
Really?
talking about how because you
nerd.
could, no, I just
nerd. No, I'm
the
just kidding.
passion again. This goes back to Mark Hamill's performance there.
Yeah.
The way he delivers the lines, the passion that he shows, and it's not just so much about like, oh kid, you need to pick up something practical or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's really trying to teach
He's
Chuck
sincere.
something that's beautiful
Yep.
about that he finds beautiful about
Yep.
the world,
Yep.
and that it can be explained in mathematics.
Yeah. No.
And I think he finds that beautiful and
Yeah.
elegant, and that's just his thing. That's his passion, right?
I
And he
agree.
wants to instill that into his grandson.
And I absolutely loved how there was a very subtle scene where young Chuck still expresses his interest in dance, and I think Grandpa Luke, realizes that he's not getting through to him on the
Talk straight into it.
on the importance.
There you go.
There you go. On the importance of math. So he tells him, math can be used for other stuff like statistics. And this is where it gets cold. He says, statistically speaking, you have more chance of being drafted by a Major League Baseball team than making a living as a dance major or something like that, as a dancer. And that's where you see young Chuck Charles. That's where you see the expression on his face of like, oh, fuck, man, am I wasting it? Do I need to quit this passion? Do I need to become an account? And I think it's conversations like that, these very subtle exchanges with a grandparent or a parent or an uncle or an aunt that really shape your life. As a young kid, you might have this passion to become X, Y, or Z. And then you have one conversation with someone that you look up to, and they tell you, that's fucking bullshit. You're never going to cut it in that. What you need to do is become an accountant. And that alone can shift your entire life, as it did for Chuck. I feel like that's where he decided, I'm not going to continue to pursue this dance thing. I have to focus on math and numbers and becoming an accountant. So
But I mean, it doesn't. There's a lot there because yes, I see that in Chuck. But then what happens later? So
the dance.
the dance he goes to the school dance. So in this whole tweakers and twirlers class, he meets a
Another
pretty
tweaker.
Asian girl
Yeah.
who he falls for.
Yeah.
But she's older. She's like an 8th grader, and he's I don't know, a 6th grader or whatever he is. But he's a short kid, and
Yeah, he is.
she's like a foot taller than him and everything. It's very cute.
Yeah,
I love
it's
this whole
adorable.
coming of age thing. I'm a
Yeah.
sucker for it.
Yep.
And so like he's had this conversation with his grandfather. He still goes to the dance. He's all in his tux and everything.
He's insecure now. He
Looking,
looks-
he's looking
looks
very
dapper.
very dapper. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And you know the girl comes to him and is like, hey, you know, let's go dance.
do this.
Because she loves dancing with him.
Yeah,
And I don't
let's
understand
dance the night away.
why she was with this other guy who looked like a fat Marty McFly. I don't
He
understand.
looked like a young Bradley Cooper who gained weight.
It really is.
Yeah, it was a Bradley Cooper.
I
young
mean,
lookalike.
yeah, I didn't understand. Like, what
Yeah.
was the deal with that?
Yeah.
But he's hesitant at first, makes up this lie about his leg hurting and he hurt his leg and everything.
Yep.
And then the Tweakers and Twirlers teacher comes and talks to him and is like, you know, like sometimes there's just not enough rocks.
Fucking guy, shut the fuck up. God damn it. Can we have one episode where you don't fucking talk about rocks? God damn it.
Okay.
I'm gonna get you a pound of fucking rocks.
So he just tells like, hey, like, you
Yeah.
know, basically
Yeah.
like man up and go out there and dance, motherfucker. Stop being a little bitch.
What
In
she
nicer
tells
words.
him, what
In
she
much
tells
nicer
him is
words.
like, look, you don't have to fucking dance, but don't fucking lie about it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
don't
basically stop
don't-
being a
yeah.
little bitch.
Stop being
If
a
you don't
little
want to
bitch.
dance, go tell her
Go tell her you
that
don't wanna
you're a
dance.
little bitch.
And you don't want to dance.
and you don't want to dance because you're scared.
And he decides, fuck it. The song goes on. And
He takes he takes a couple more drinks of punch. Well, he walks out into the
stars.
to get some air.
He sees a shooting star.
He sees a shooting star, and I don't know, that kind of inspires him and says like, you know what, fuck
Yep.
it, I'm gonna be a shooting star. I'm a
Dance
big,
the night
bright,
away.
shining star.
Yeah.
And so he goes back in there, and he fucking sets the dance room on
dance
fire.
floor
They show off the
ablaze.
moonwalk.
Yeah.
Somehow in this world, nobody knows who Michael Jackson is.
wondering about that. Is this?
I was like,
I was
how
like,
come-
what year is this?
Because they were
Fucking people
asking,
know
where did you
about-
learn that move?
Yeah,
What do you
they're
mean,
like,
where did you learn
whoa.
that move? Everybody should
It's
know
like
where
you're
that
walking
move.
on the moon.
Yeah.
You're like, bitch, that's Michael Jackson. Is this a universe without Michael Jackson?
Yes.
I'm out.
Yeah.
If this is a universe without Michael Jackson, I'm out. Beat it? No. I'm out.
That's what I told my wife. Like, does Michael Jackson not exist in this universe? How come nobody's
What's
acknowledging
going on?
that that's fucking Michael
I need
Jackson's
clearance.
move?
Is Michael alive or not?
No.
Is he an alien? Yeah, I need to know.
Clearly, the multitudes in his
Yeah.
brain did not include Michael Jackson.
Well, the point is, he rocked the dance floor. He
Yeah.
rocked the dance. Everyone was on.
The boyfriend
And
was jealous.
in Act
Fat Marty
one-
McFly was jealous.
In Act 1, you see that as he was in junior high school, young Chuck, one of his teachers was Karen Gillian, Nebula.
That's
and
right.
another one of his teachers was Marty, the
Marty
person
from
who
Act
in-
One,
in
yes.
the beginning of the movie was
You
the
s-
main character.
You start seeing all the characters that were
start
all in
seeing
Act
all
One.
the characters, the mortician after the
Yes.
grandparent dies.
Yes.
Yeah, which I'm getting ahead of myself. But
No, that's fine.
Act 1 is really where you start making more sense of Act 3, where you're like, oh, yeah, these are the same people. Not that it didn't make sense already. I think most people are able to make that connection by early Act 2.
Yeah, and I think you really get it solidified when you
Yeah.
when he has that conversation with the teacher, who was the first person who introduces him to Walt Whitman,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
whole
yeah, the teacher.
you are multitudes.
You contain multitudes.
Yeah, and you contain multitudes. It's basically the thing here is that what makes up a person isn't just the self, but it is an amalgamation of different
Everything.
people.
Yeah.
Everything that's happened in your life, all your experiences, the people that have inspired
Everything.
you, the people that have moved you from
Influenced
one way
you.
or another,
Yeah.
and so on. So you are not just this body, but all these other things, and
You
that
are a
is what
multitude.
in Act 3, I'm sorry, begins to make a whole lot more sense. In that what you were seeing is basically the universe is ending, but it's Chuck's world. What's
Yeah.
going on in his brain? You find
ending.
out he has cancer, brain cancer, brain tumor, and he's starting to lose his mind. He forgets who is the people who are, and
That's
I
when
think
the internet goes
yeah,
out.
yeah, exactly. That all the whole Act 3 is a metaphor of what's going on in his brain as things are starting
Yes.
to fall apart, and
Lights
so on.
going out,
And
yeah.
even like emotionally, what's happening. I think Gus is just another representation of what's happening with him emotionally, whether it's denial and acceptance and
Yeah.
so on.
Yeah.
What's happening with the teacher and wanting to be with his ex-wife and everything is
yep.
just everything about what makes Chuck who Chuck is in the great 39 years that he's had is all
As
you
an
know
ending,
falling
it's coming
apart
to an end.
in Act 3, and it's coming to an end. Everything, his life is coming to an end.
It's almost like his brain coming to terms or realizing that they are about to end. Like the consciousness, all the different people that he's experienced throughout his life are exist now through his brain, through his memory, are coming to terms and realizing that, oh shit, we're dying. The person who contains our memories is dying.
Yep.
And this is what we're experiencing.
It reminded, it reminded me of something that my dad used to tell me. This is kind of interesting. When I was a kid, he used to tell me, el mundo se acaba, no, el mundo no se va a acabar, pero sí se acaba para cada persona. The world ends for each person individually when they die.
Subtitles.
That's the end of the world.
Yeah.
That's the real end of the world that you're going to experience is when you die. And that it was very, it reminded me of that and how, the world is what's in between your ears, right? This brain. And once this brain dies, the world ends for you. And everything that made you who you are, the people that you've known, all the experiences, it all ends. And and that's it.
See, I agree with you, Sam. And I feel like
it's something
it can
quite deep and meaningful there.
It can be considered narcissistic. But I have constantly, before this movie, I have felt like that, where these sudden glimpses of like, is everything that's happening, everything that's around me, a creation of my own brain? Like, in real life, am I on a deathbed? Am I a duck swimming on a pond?
I don't think it's going in that direction.
It's not.
It's not doing the Matrix thing. It's not doing that. It's not doing the brain in a vat thing. I think what it's trying to say is that
if you're looking at Act 3, it could be the Matrix thing.
No. I think
if you're looking at Act 3, they're not aware of the fact they consider themselves actual people living in actual life, doing actual things
within the
and
world
then they
of
realize,
his brain.
Right, and then they realize at the end that they are not real people, that they are, or maybe they don't realize it. They don't realize it, but we realize that at the end there was not an actual universe. This was all a universe contained within a person. And what I'm trying to say is that I've had many thoughts like that where I'm like, is this all real, or is this all contained within the atom of a small fingertip of a greater, larger being?
Possibly.
It could be. Absolutely. We could be an instant of a second, of a millisecond of an atom coming into existence and then exploding within itself, and we wouldn't know it because time happens differently. What I'm trying to say is that this movie definitely triggered a lot of those thoughts of like, what is real? What are we experiencing? What does what I experience today influence and mean for the me of 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Like, it's just it definitely kept me thinking after the movie ended.
Yeah, I didn't go into that kind of thought process in the whole like, I think the movie is trying to point to more of how what's meaningful to human. Like we tend to talk about this vast world, and you go back to the whole calendar metaphor, right? And how insignificant we are. We're this small, tiny seconds in the world, right? Our lives is not even a second of this universe. And we think that's so insignificant. But really, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that how meaninglessness and insignificant it is, because what's meaningful in our world, our universe is in here, in our brain, our experiences and everything like that. And and even though it's tiny in comparison to the universe, it's okay, because this world inside of this universe is everything to us, and that's what's meaningful, and it can be meaningful. That's how I took it. Okay. I took it. Maybe that's not as deep, maybe. I don't know.
It's wrong.
But that's what I took it, because it was like even the whole thing of like there was 39 damn good years, and it's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, again, when you think about it, like, well, who cares? 39 years, that's so insignificant. But it was significant to this when you put it in this this
Yeah.
perspective, it was everything.
Love it.
His life was everything.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
you get it?
Yeah.
That what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely get it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely get it. Real quick, what are your critiques? Because I have a few critiques which I would have liked to have seen or changed.
I needed, I think, as I said at the beginning, real quick, I think I needed a bit of more of a gut punch. I felt, I said this earlier in the talk, is that I felt like it blew its load a little too quick.
Yes.
With kind of giving away the mystery of what's happening in Act 3.
Yeah.
And even though it doesn't give it away and like this is it, doesn't
Yeah.
like, it doesn't tell you, but it
enough.
gives you enough to be like, oh, okay, I see what's happening, and then
Yep.
the rest just kind of reinforces
Yes,
it, and you're
yes,
just
yes,
like, yep,
yes.
that's it. And by the end, it doesn't really it. I feel I'm getting more of an emotional reaction now that I'm talking about it than how
In
I did
retrospect.
in retrospect, thinking about the movie as a whole. So I
Yeah.
think it's growing on me already.
Yeah.
But during the movie, I didn't feel that gut punch. Like I really wanted to cry.
Yeah, no. There were like,
and it's like I don't know. I felt like I need to like just let go of something. I really wanted to feel that sort of gut punch, and I just didn't. So that's my only thing. I think some of the lines at first were a little cheesy. There was certain moments like the ending line where he says, so it ends, by the way, we didn't get to the ending.
We didn't.
It ends with him with the grandfather dying. He
Yes.
dies, right? He
Yes,
has
yes,
everything
yes.
set up because he's been
he's
setting
a
everything.
junior in high school at this point.
Yeah, and he
17.
finally opens up the Coolio and he goes into the we got to find out what that thing
Gangster's
is.
Paradise.
Yeah. He goes up into that roof and he
look it
sees himself on the deathbed. Basically sees his own death.
Yeah.
And he tells himself, like, I'm not gonna, just ponder and wait for this thing to happen. I don't know how old I'm going to be, whatever it is, but I'm going to make my life wonderful. It's going to be a fantastic, wonderful life.
Yeah.
And that's basically how it ends. Right? And I don't know. I found that the ending a little bit cheesy. I wish it would have been a bit more gut punchy, a little bit deeper, but it didn't bother me as much. It didn't destroy the movie for me or anything like that.
it
I just
didn't-
felt
didn't
like
for
I
me either.
needed something more in there. That's all.
I absolutely agree with you. There's a reason why I enjoyed Act 3, the beginning of the movie, more than the other two, but it's not to say that Act 2 or Act 1 was bad. It's just that I think what I took more out of Act 3 that I enjoyed. I don't think it was a bad ending. I just felt like I agree with you. I was expecting it was almost not anticlimactic, but I wanted the reveal of what was in that room to be a bit more heavier.
Yeah.
I felt like when he finally, because you're building up throughout Act 2,
Yeah.
or maybe no, throughout Act 1, there's this mystery of what is in that door, what is behind that door. There's
That's
a
the only
scene-
mystery left, really.
There's a scene
Yeah.
where Mark Hamill opens up the door and he does this, and you're like, what the fuck did he see? They're going to visualize it so amazingly. And then when he finally walks in, it's an empty Coolio. And he's like, I guess there's nothing here. And he's about to walk out. And then he looks back and he hears the monitor, which was in Act 3 with
Yes.
the nurse.
The
He
beep.
hears the monitor and he looks back and he sees an older version of himself in a hospital bed. And I feel like that didn't really give him a lot. Like, what did he die of brain tumor? Did he die of a kidney stone?
Well, that's the
Did he-
thing. That
The waiting? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's sort of ambiguous to him.
Yeah.
As to like, wait, okay, so
I
that's
guess it's
me.
supposed to be that way, yeah.
That's me, and like I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
die. And I mean, the voiceover
Still felt
comes.
lackluster. It still
Yeah.
felt like it could have been heavier.
Yeah, I agree.
My-
It just didn't punch me
Right.
in the gut. I wanted
gut.
to be destroyed, and I wasn't destroyed.
Yeah. I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
For
Anyways.
me, another critique for me, I will say very quick, was I really would have wanted to have seen more of his relationship with his wife and his
Yes,
kid.
I agree. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you don't really get a lot. I was hoping to see like, oh, there's gonna be a scene of him being young and meeting. I thought that the dance partner
Yes.
was gonna turn out to be his wife, which
Yes.
was like, oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
This 8th grader that he didn't think could have a chance with, and he learned to dance with her, and,
And
there
she
was
like
this,
loved him. I
there
don't
was this
understand
pivotal
how this
moment.
didn't
There
work
was
out.
this adorable scene of the 8th grade dance, and
Yes.
they dance together, and
I was really hoping to hear that she was the one who ends up being his wife, but no, it's someone completely different.
It's a complete stranger
We
to
don't
the
know
movie. We don't even
anything
know
about
who that
her.
person
They don't
is.
show
yeah.
any. They don't show anything about how they met, how they fell in love, how they got married. He has a son. As a father, I really would have wanted to have seen more of that relationship between
Yeah.
him and his son. Maybe a flashback or a callback or something that connects his son to Act 3 or Act 2. But nope, the only thing that we see of his wife and his son is while they're in the hospital room as he's dying, and they're upset about it. They're
Yeah.
upset about the fact that it's only 39 years and it's such a short life, and then it cuts away from them. It doesn't really give more on that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that too. I think
That-
that's a good point. Yeah.
That was my only critique. That one and the ending would feeling lackluster. But
Yeah.
other than that, man, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
All right.
You ready to grade it?
Let's grade it. Let's do it.
You go first.
All right. I'm between a B plus and A minus. I think when I came out of the movie, I was definitely a B plus.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking about it,
yes.
I'm kind of going to an A minus because I really think
Yeah.
the movie has grown on me already just talking
Yeah.
about it and
Yep.
all the different details of it. It's very
Same.
well written, I think. So, man, I'm gonna give
Harry,
it
you
an
have
A
to
minus.
answer.
I'm gonna give it A
A
minus.
minus. Oh,
A minus.
shit.
A minus.
Honestly, man, I think there's a reason why we're doing this together is because I had the exact same train of thought. As I was walking to my car, I told myself out loud, people stared at me because I was like, this is a B plus movie. That's what I'm going to grade it when I do the podcast tonight. People were like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? But now that we're home and now that we've talked about it, I think I'm going to give it a C. I'm just fucking around. Psych!
for-
I'm gonna
C for Coolio.
Yeah, C for Coolio. No, I agree, man. A minus seems appropriate for this film because it's definitely a movie that when you rewatch it or when you think about it more, all these
Yeah.
little subtle and I'm wondering, I'm interested.
I'm almost like now wanting to go watch it again.
Right, that's what I was saying. I'm interested on whether I missed a few things.
Yeah.
A few characters in the background, a few references, a few the things that maybe like, oh, that's a callback to this or that. So just in that alone, I would give it an A minus.
All right, sounds good. Ubla and I at Morons Miss
Yeah.
Movies, we give Life of Chuck an A minus. Please tell us what you thought of Life of Chuck. By the way, this is the Stephen King adaptation.
I saw that.
The Stephen King adaptation,
I
which
saw
we
that towards
completely
the
didn't
end.
talk about it
Didn't talk
until
about it
right
at
now.
all. It's a short story, so let's
Yeah.
give it a short reference.
Yeah.
Stephen King.
Good job.
All right.
And-
So
and
anyway, yeah. The
kudos
cast-
to Mike Flanagan for adapting the screenplay.
Yeah. You did a great job, and the cast was great.
Yeah, good cast. Yeah, so yeah, A minus. Please tell us what you thought about Life of Chuck, and comments down there and all that stuff. And as always,
Have a bright night. No. Have a dark night.
that's right.
Ah.